So, a very good evening, one and all. Welcome to the Buddhist Mahavihara's Facebook page. We are going live this evening. And this evening, we have a guest of ours from the UK. He's a doctor who has been with us, Dhamma speaker, a well known Dhamma speaker throughout the world. And our guest, Dr. Sunil, has been with us. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this will be his third appearance here at the Buddhist Mahavihara's Dhammadana series. And this evening, I would like to introduce to you Dr. Sunil. Let me bring on Dr. Sunil. Okay, we have Dr. Sunil Kariyakarawana from the UK. Good afternoon, I think, for you, Doctor. You're in the afternoon, right?
Good afternoon. Yes.
Okay. So we are back here today to discuss on Doctor's subject, which is wholesome mindfulness. Let me give you a quick introduction to our good doctor. Dr. Sunil was born in a rural village in Lalvala in the Gal district of Sri Lanka. He had his primary and secondary education in the south of the island, and he entered the University of Kelaniya and obtained his BA honors degree with first class honors in linguistics, literature, and philosophy in 1983. In 1985, he won the Commonwealth Postgraduate Scholarship offered by the Commonwealth Association of Canada and completed his master's in theoretical linguistics at the University of Ottawa. Then in 1987, he was offered a teaching assistantship by the Cornell University of New York, and there he obtained his PhD in theoretical linguistics and cognitive studies in 1992. In the same year, he was offered a senior lecturer position by the University of Kelaniya and worked there until April 2000. Then in April 2000, he won 2 international postdoctoral fellowships, one to take up research in child language acquisition at the Rikyo University in Tokyo, Japan, and the other by the Association of Commonwealth Universities in the UK to take up research in clinical linguistics at the University College of London. Having completed both research projects in 2002, he joined the Department of Language and Communication Science at the City University of London, teaching clinical linguistics to BSc students. In the same year, he migrated to the UK under the highly skilled migrant program. Dr. Sunil is currently the Buddhist advisor at St. Michael's College, Cardiff University, and the director of the Kalina Mitra Buddhist Chaplaincy Support Group. He's also an executive member of the International Buddhist Confederation, IBC, established by the Asoka Mission of India. Dr. Sunil is actually the first Buddhist chaplain to Her Majesty's British Armed Forces for the past 12 years and has been working for the Ministry of Defence, providing spiritual and pastoral care to Buddhist personnel across 3 British Armed Forces and their families and dependents. That's a profile of our good Dr. Sunil. He is highly qualified, and he's here this evening to speak to us on an interesting subject called wholesome mindfulness. So, Doctor, would you like to take the stand this evening?
Thank you, Tilak. Thank you, everybody. First of all, I'd like to actually record my thanks to Malaysian Buddhist Mahavihara, Venerable Vinita, and rest of you for you doing such a great work on bringing in a lot of Dhamma speakers regularly. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about mindfulness, which is kind of a very hot topic, a buzzword going around the world today. As you know, mindfulness does not actually need any introduction to any of you. If you just Google mindfulness, you will get hundreds and hundreds of sites and people actually teaching mindfulness, talking about it, and so on. So in the United States alone, mindfulness is 1.4 billion industry. I mean, as you know, the Oxford Mindfulness Center research shows that at any given time, over 300 million people suffer from stress, anxiety, and depression all over the world. And in fact, in the 21st.
Sorry, doctor, just to interrupt. Could you push your camera a bit back? I can't see the top of your head.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Is it okay? Is it okay? Is it better?
Yes, it's better now. Yes.
All right. Um, okay. Can I continue?
Yes, please. Please do carry
Yeah.
on. Sorry to
Okay.
interrupt.
So basically, I was talking about mindfulness is a very big hot topic all over the world today, mainly because of mental health and well-being issues. Stress, anxiety, and depression is steadily increasing due to workplace pressures, due to so many reasons, lifestyles and whatnot. Because of this, there is a real market for mindfulness, and lots of people actually talk about mindfulness all over the world. There are huge workshops, webinars on mindfulness. So, mindfulness-based stress reduction in America. Well-known Professor John Kabat-Zinn started what people popularly known as MBSR and MBCT in Oxford Mindfulness Center here, UK. And all over the world, people are really talking about mindfulness a lot. So I'm not going to be talking about mindfulness as it is in the contemporary world, but rather I'm actually going to be talking a little bit about comparing the contemporary mindfulness, today's mindfulness with the ancient Buddhist mindfulness, what the Buddha calls actually sammasati, which is one limb of Eightfold Noble Path. So let's. I mean, as a lot of these teachers. Professor John Kabat-Zinn himself and Professor Mark Williams and so many others who take on this, as you know, in now in the British Parliament alone, there is an all-party parliamentary group on mindfulness, and the mindfulness is a subject taught in the university. There are university departments of mindfulness, research programs of mindfulness, professors of mindfulness, and so on. Cognitive neuroscientists, psychologists, psychiatrists all over the world are actually talking about mindfulness. And I was just happened to be in Tesco's, the supermarket, and believe me, in their weekly publication, there's a 4-page research article on mindfulness. So I mean that really does show the level of interest in the subject. So because of this popularity of mindfulness running around the world, now people are selling a lot of stuff, in the name of mindfulness and so on. I mean, there are a lot of, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of positive sides to what people are doing on mindfulness. But what I'm actually going to be focusing on today is it would be even better if we actually understand the difference, or mindfulness has been there in the Buddhist tradition for last 2,500 years, and it is the very first aspect of spiritual teaching. As you know, the 7 factors of enlightenment, the Sattabojjhangas, start off with the Satibojjhanga. And the word actually was translated by Professor Rhys Davids in his Pali literature translations, he translated the word sati as mindfulness. And that is how actually the word came into being. And now we talk about mindfulness, but I'm not quite sure whether we really understand the exact content, what it really is meant, and how it has been explored in the Buddhist tradition, last two and a half millennia. So let me take you through some similarities and differences. Actually, of course, mindfulness has in the Buddhist tradition, it says there are three stages. Actually, the first one is called mindfulness, and the second is called mindfulness meditation, and the third is mindfulness meditation path. So in the Satipatthana Samyutta, in the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha actually asks monks, monks, do you know what mindfulness is? What mindfulness meditation is? Mindfulness meditation path is. So we have pretty much, brought all these three steps together, and we now talk about mindfulness, which is kind of a very mechanistic thing. So let me give you what is popularly known as a definition of mindfulness. And so what is commonly known is drawing attention to this present moment on purpose, non-judgmentally. I mean, this is the definition is being given. Which sounds amazing on the face of it. But I must tell you, from the Buddhist point of view, and from the philosophical point of view, this is not right mindfulness, not samma sati at all. Let me give you an example. When you say the present moment awareness, what you are actually, you cannot have a present moment devoid of the past and the future. So you cannot be talking about present without the past or the future. So every time we talk about present, and the past and the future is just attached to it. And then there are other things like near and far, and internal, external, like and dislike, and all these 11 aspects that the Buddha was referring to. So so therefore, and I think if you say you're going to bring your attention to the present moment non-judgmentally, it is not something that you can do at all, because there is a judgment of time already implicit and implied in the present moment itself. And as you know, in the Majjhima Sutta of the Anguttara Nikaya, very clearly, when the 6 monks talk about this, the middle, the stanza goes like yo ubante viditvan majje manta nilipati tambrumi mahapurisoti soda sibani machaga. When this discussion was brought in by 6 different monks, and one of the ends that he was talking about was past is one end, future is another end, and the present is in the middle. And so here the veteran monks who have specialized in vidarshana, vipassana, in a clear way of seeing things, it says that one should be actually ready to let go of the past, future, and the present. So if you just simply say, yeah, you're going to bring your mind to the present moment, and that in itself is not a right thing to do. I mean, even if you were to take a very practical example, I mean, what if the present moment is an unpleasant moment? When I was actually talking about mindfulness one time, somebody told me that, you know, he has got a very bad job, really a difficult boss, and he doesn't enjoy the present moment at all. So by asking, by us asking people to bring their attention to the present moment, we may not necessarily doing them a big favor, because if the present moment is unpleasant, undesirable, we cannot actually it will be highly undesirable. So what is the uh, right mindfulness, or wholesome or authentic mindfulness? I mean, if you don't like the word right mindfulness, you could call it wholesome mindfulness or authentic mindfulness. So, mindfulness, it is a prerogative of Homo sapiens sapiens. Only human beings apparently are able to actually mind their own mind, and this is a very, very special species specific human prerogative. So therefore, we must never underestimate the potential, our ability to, be mindful. But what exactly is meant by this word? The word sati also implies, the Sanskrit word smruti implies this, uh, memory, bringing something to the memory. Uh, and this is actually highly important, because when you say satima sampajano in the Buddhist tradition, you're not actually you are actually bringing something to the mind, and also investigating it with through your wisdom. I mean, this is a very important practice. So what do you actually bring to your mind here? What you really bring to your mind is the true nature of existence, and which is actually discussed in the right view, which is called sammaditthi. I mean, the Buddha very clearly says anyone who really does not have a right view cannot even think of a right mindfulness. So the entire Eightfold Noble Path, starts with the right view. Samma dicting samma sankappam pahami, samma sating pahoti, etc., etc. Now this very clearly shows that only a person who really has the right view will be able to develop the right mindfulness. So I'm not actually trying to be philosophical, hypothetical here, but it is so important to understand how our mind actually works, operates, with regard to the world. So every time when we say we are trying to bring our mind or attention to the present moment, um, I mean, that may not necessarily be a right thing to do. So one clear difference, distinction between the contemporary mindfulness and the traditional mindfulness is this issue of time. Whereas Buddhism does not place in the temporal or time frame, and the contemporary mindfulness is insisting on bringing the mind to this present moment. And another thing is what is lacking in the contemporary mindfulness is the ethical, moral value attached to this. I mean, mindfulness in Buddhism is a holistic um, and a skillful practice, so which is called kusala. It is always positive. You cannot, there is no negative purpose, cannot be served through mindfulness at all, which is not necessarily the case in the contemporary mindfulness, because sometimes you actually practice mindfulness for your mundane, sometimes even unethical purposes. Now, say for example, I mean, corporate, profit making, profiteering. Now, in some corporate sector, mindfulness is being introduced and developed for people, so that people be able to actually increase the profits of a corporation, of a business. So, and I think this is kind of very mundane purpose, which is not necessarily, doesn't necessarily fall within the framework of wholesomeness. So, I mean, another classic example would be, increase your mindfulness so that, as a sniper, uh, you know, soldier, sometimes you can actually use mindfulness for that kind of purpose, and which is also not permitted in the Buddhist tradition at all. So what is lacking in the contemporary mindfulness discussions is this, um, mindfulness has to be always wholesome, holistic, and skillful, moral, and ethical. And when you lose that foundation, you actually lose the entire, meaning of mindfulness. So there are many such differences that fall, that differentiate the contemporary mindfulness from the traditional one, which I do not have time to go through in this particular talk. So what I really wanted was to raise your awareness, your attention to the fact that when we actually say we are practicing right mindfulness, and we got to be really careful. We got to understand the width and the depth of the Buddhist teaching. If you really do not have the right view, and you cannot have the right mindfulness. So therefore, what is the right view of the world? I mean, this is a really good question. Again, a big topic as well. And the Buddha, very in short, says the right view is the view of the world, the seeing the world as it really is, not the way you wish it to be. So, what is the reality of the world? As we all know, the world is full of suffering, and if you don't understand the suffering in the world, and we don't understand the world at all, that really doesn't mean that we need to be so gloomy and downcast about it, but it means actually we have to realize suffering, and that is, one thing to do about suffering, the Buddha said, was not try to get rid of it, but to realize it. Dukkhang satchikathabbang. So and then when you actually realize the suffering, and then you actually realize the cause of suffering and the cessation of suffering and the path towards that. So all Four Noble Truths, our understanding of the Four Noble Truth is called right view. And when somebody develops that right view, one actually breaks away from what we call Sakkaya Ditthi, this existential the idea of eternal, permanent entity idea, Sakaya Ditti or Artha Ditti or Nicha Ditti, etc., etc. So when then we realize that we create this facade, this actually this wrong view because of our not understanding the reality as it is. So the moment actually we understand the reality, we actually realize we attain the Four Noble Truths, or first understanding of the reality, and then we understand what is called idhappacchata in Buddhism. Idhappacchata paticcasamuppada is the most important teaching in the Buddha Dhamma. That basically, in the paticcasamuppada, the ignorance leads to formations, avijja paccaya sankhara, etc., sankhara paccaya vijnana, all these 12 links. And within these 12 links, every pair between the two pairs, like ignorance leads to formations. And if you take that, and when this is a rising of this arises, this when this ceases, the cessation of this leads to the cessation of this. So I mean, this formula is called idhappacchata, which is the most central teaching in the Buddha Dhamma. So if we apply this to mindfulness, and we can actually, if we when we form a sankhara, when we form a thought in our mind, and when we really actually identify ourselves with this thought, sometimes act upon it, etc., etc. So the moment we realize this formation is due to our ignorance, our unawareness, not knowing of the reality as it is, what we do is we basically come to realize that this is another formation. And the Buddha says one thing to do about it is actually see it as it is, in seeing, just the mere seeing, in hearing, just the seeing, just the hearing, as the Buddha actually gave teaching to Bahya Daruchirya, ditte dittamattang, sute sutamattang, mute mutamattang, vinyate vinyatamattang. So basically, mere thinking, the process of thinking, rather than identifying oneself with that thought. So every moment, every millisecond, our mind gets inundated with thousands and hundreds thousands, or millions of thoughts, but the moment we realize this thought process arises due to our unawareness or ignorance, then we actually see this idhappacchata, the connection between the two. And this realization is, being mindful of this realization is so important, because it really does help us to get to the root of the problem, where we actually create proliferations, permutations, and this is the problem, which is called prapancha in Buddhism. When we see something, we do not actually stop the process there, but we actually create something out of it. When we hear something, we create something out of it. When we actually when there's a thought, and then we create another thought of this, and this is actually very clearly expressed in the Kajaniya Sutta of the Samyutta Nikaya, where the Buddha says, actually, abhisankaronti iti sankharo. So, rupang rupathaya, rupang abhisankaronti iti sankharang abhisankaronti iti sankharo. So, it's not just the form, it is the feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. All of these are actually formed or made into a thing through our ignorance. And when this process is happening, when we are fully aware of this process, what happens is when the light is there, the darkness cannot coexist with it, and the darkness has to go. So in the same way, when our awareness of this process, the formation or proliferation or fabrication is known to our mind, the mind naturally gets relaxed and cleared or unattached, and it actually come to a very restful state. What the Buddha describes as, nibindati virajyati viraga vimucchati vimuttasming vimuttamiti jnanam hoti. Once you are liberated from that, and you actually develop the understanding that you have done so. So now this is actually the right mindfulness path. So the Buddha very clearly states the mindfulness is that establishing attention, which is actually done by even the contemporary mindfulness. So developing your concentration, your awareness, there's nothing wrong with that. But you really cannot call that as right mindfulness. So establishing mindfulness is one thing, and doing mindfulness meditation is another thing. And following the mindfulness meditation path is quite a different thing also. So therefore, in summary, what I really wanted to share with you today was that the right mindfulness in the Buddhist tradition is much deeper, much holistic, much authentic and wholesome concept and a practice. This is again, it's so important to understand that this is not just a good idea, thought, but this is actually a practice, and through which people have liberated themselves, for 2.5 millennia. So, I know it's a deep subject which requires a lot of reflection and contemplation. So, what I really would like now is to let you ask any questions you may have, so that we can explore this topic together some more. Is that okay, Leslie?
Yeah, it's fine, doctor. But I noticed that today there is no questions that are being posted on our Facebook pages. This is one of the first few occasions where I think we don't have questions, because I think the subject is a little deep, and people are trying to comprehend and grasp what you are speaking about. But I
Yeah,
have one personal query, because if you notice nowadays, as you mentioned earlier, there are many people who are actually using mindfulness as a form of commercial training. Uh,
yeah.
they, they actually sell courses or training courses to corporate companies, and this has become quite a popular subject. Now, is that really acceptable, or is that how do you call it? Do we as Buddhists, have to comply, or do we need to sign up for such courses, or should we get angry because somebody is using the Buddhist knowledge in terms of mindfulness or sati to actually make money out of it? What are your views on this, Doctor?
Thank you so much. That's a very pertinent question, Leslie. So actually, we as Buddhists, we never try to own anything, never try to get angry or upset about I mean, anyone using this deep spiritual practices for mundane purposes, I mean, that is perfectly fine. But what is not good is, to ignore some parts of it. So, for example, ethical aspects of mindfulness. Now, one could actually use mindfulness for profiteering, the business objectives like increase profit. And nowadays, what the corporate sector is focusing on is, more and more profiteering. And sometimes they ignore the workforce, and putting workforce and people behind, and that is actually absolutely wrong. So Buddhism does not encourage that kind of unethical use of mindfulness. So therefore we should actually insist on the fact that if people, I mean, it is a noble thing to do, actually develop your concentration, your focus, your attention. Now, say, for example, I mean, in the morning when we brush our teeth, we are thinking about the meetings that we have to go to. When we are actually having a shower, we are in a meeting with many people. And this is how fast our mind navigates. But so it is so important that we pay attention, that is, sense connect. Now, when we look at things, we don't see them. When we listen to things, we don't hear them. When we eat our food, when was the last time you tasted your food? Sometimes we ask people, because um, people have no moment to connect with what they are doing at that point in time. And that's one of the major reasons why we have fallen ill, sick, because the obesity has increased 48% in the world, last 10 years or so. I mean, because of, I mean, during this corona pandemic, actually, a lot of deaths are also due to obesity and underlying health problems. So, it is really important to develop our attention, our awareness, our focus this way. But I think what we shouldn't do is we shouldn't actually use this noble, holy, spiritual practice, devoid of, or stripping it of its ethical, moral background. It is like it's like actually taking something out of its own context. So I have no issue. I'm sure no Buddhist would quarrel with using mindfulness for any mundane purposes, and in fact, it is quite the contrary. Because in the Samadhi Bhavana Sutta, the Buddha very clearly says, actually, the first most important benefit of meditation is, good living in this life, what he calls Ditta Dhamma Sukha Vihara. So, out of other benefits, he actually categorized that as a very important benefit to concentrate on. So I mean, so we all should live comfortably, nicely, and healthily, etc., etc. But it is also important to focus on the fact that if we don't think of the moral, ethical aspects of it, I mean, I could be using meditation for wrong purposes. In the Buddhist tradition, there were some examples of, like, say, Devadatta, using his meditation for wrong purposes. So, but that is not acceptable. So long as genuinely, honestly use these spiritual practices for mundane purposes, there will be no issue whatsoever. So, but what is really problematic, as you correctly said, I mean, we as Buddhists should question: is it proper to use mindfulness for business profiteering? I mean, profit. We really want to make a profit when we do a business. That is fine, but sometimes that is out of proportion, and at the expense of people's people's ill health. Now the mental health, as I pointed out, 300 million people are in stress, anxiety, and depression, and most of these people are medicated, using the antidepressants. And sometimes we get the best of people, and give people the worst of things. So, and which is not right. And if our intention is to look after people, and if our intention is to take care of them, so human resources, um, and then that making profit is absolutely fine. So as anything else, it is about a balance, and the right balance within the moral ethical boundaries. I hope I answered your question. So if not, we can discuss it further.
Yeah, thank you, Doctor. Yes, I understand where you're coming from. Just an extension from that question. Now, would it be right to say that if you look at mindfulness or mindfulness meditation, it's only useful if you are going to be in a monastic life, or instead of being in a lay life, it's going to be very difficult to practice it, especially in this modern contemporary world of ours, where everything is judged by ROI, return on investments or profit, or even productivity for that matter. So how does mindfulness come into play in a corporate environment, for that matter? Won't you, if you're really contemplating or really mindful of things, you might be very slow in your work actually.
Well, no, not really, not really. I mean, it's a thinking about it. We sometimes have an idea, so we think about something, and we get a wrong perception of it. And this is why the mindfulness is it's actually, it is trying to keep the right things in the mind, and not letting the wrong things actually invade your mental space. Some people use these things like head space. I mean, our head is full of a lot of rubbish, and sometimes rubbish from yesterday, last year, and previous ages, and so on. And this is so problematic. And for us to be able to see the world, so clean, and without these baggages, it is so important. And you were actually asking, part of it is like, is it just for the monastics? No, actually, nothing in Buddhism is taught just for monastics. I mean, of course, the Buddha addresses the monks as bhikkhus, but that doesn't necessarily mean that this teaching is just for monastic community. No, the monastic community is doing wonderful job of preserving the teachings, and bringing the teachings into life, and that should be greatly appreciated. But this teaching is for anyone. Lay person, you know, is highly capable of attaining the entire spiritual goal. I mean, there are actually lay people who attain arahanthood in this very life. So and so therefore we should not be under the illusion that, oh, it's mindfulness is just slowing down. No, slowing down in monastics who do not have other work to do, or have a lot of time to kill. No, this is again a wrong idea of mindfulness. But actually, what mindfulness does is, so it doesn't necessarily slow you down. It increases your quality rather than the quantity. So and when your quality of life is good, and your achievement is good as well. And the problem is, our minds are always inundated with lot of thoughts. Like, say, if you develop 100,000 thoughts a day, and 80 to 90% of those thoughts are negative and repeated daily. I mean, just how do you actually work with a mind like that? So mindfulness really does help us to see through this whole storage, and then enable us to pick and choose, and give us a handle to work with this positively, relaxingly, pleasantly, and so on and so forth. So uh, I address your question. Are we still
Yes,
okay?
yes.
Yeah.
Doctor, there's another question from the audience.
Yeah.
Just posted on the screen.
Yeah, doctor, do you think it helps if a terminal patient uses mindfulness meditation to calm their mind? No, absolutely so. Um, I mean, to tell you the fact, we are all terminal. Only thing is, we don't know when we are going to die, And I mean, somebody was asking me, what's the difference between a tin of salmon and a human life? And then he said, the difference is the tin of salmon has a past sell by date, expiry date, and the human does not have an expiry date. So, I mean, we are all terminal in one way or the other. But I'm actually realizing the impermanence of our life, our transitory nature of our life is so important. And actually, the Buddha gives us a very good meditation called death meditation. Contemplate on your death every day, and even every time you breathe in and breathe out, and that when your exhale can be the last exhale of your life. Who knows? So if we actually contemplate on our death every moment, and that is going to fire us up, and it is going to build us a lot of positive energy, because you are not hanging on unnecessary things. You cannot waste your precious time. I mean, when you go on holiday for 2 weeks, do you regret about anything? You try to get the best of those 2 weeks. So the similar way, I mean, if you have got 2 hours to live, you might as well make the best use of those 2 hours. So I mean, terminally illness people, they should actually be mindful and practice on the death, contemplate on death, not in a negative way, but in a very positive way. So I mean, the only reason is that we actually, we think of death as a finite thing. Actually, death, it happens to us every moment, and there, what is actually factual, real about our life is death. But we tend to ignore that part altogether, and we don't want to even think about it. So that is why it brings us fear. But if we reflect on death, momentarily, I mean, during this period, I mean, really. close to 1 million people have perished last 3 months from the earth, and some of them actually had no clue that they were going to exit, um, die. But c'est la vie. That is the life. So we have to face it, and we might as well face it with mindfulness, with that clear comprehension and awareness. Thank you. Thanks for the question.
That is all the questions we have, Doctor. So I think we will now wrap up tonight's Dhamma discussion, and maybe we should now do the Anumodana. Would you like to do the Anumodana to the dearly departed as well as to the Devas, Dr. Sunil?
Wonderful, wonderful, Tilak. Let's actually hope that the Buddha Dhamma is so precious, and we contemplated on the right mindfulness for nearly for 1 hour, and by doing that we generated a lot of merit, kusala, and let's share this merit with the devas, with all beings everywhere, our departed relatives, everybody, especially those who are really having tough time on hospital beds and war zones, etc., etc. So may they all be well. May they be free from stress, anxiety, and may they attain peace. And so let's actually put our heads together and do the Anumodana. Akasattha cha bhummattha devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chiran rakhantu lokasasanam. Akasattha cha bhummattha devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chiran rakhantu desanam. Akasattha cha bhummattha devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chiran rakhantu mam parang. May all beings be well and attain peace.
Thank you, Doctor. So on behalf of the Committee of Management and also the members of the Mahasangha of the Buddhist Mahavihara here in Kuala Lumpur, let me take this opportunity to thank you once again and for sharing your Dhamma knowledge and wisdom with us this evening. I know you're a very busy person. I know you have, if I'm not mistaken, another Dhamma talk after this. And so, Doctor, on behalf of all of us here, and also the listening in audience, the live audience, and also the sponsors for this evening's Dhamma sharing, may all of you all be well and happy. And thank you for taking time off to listen to us. A very good night and pleasant evening to one and all. Sadhu.
Thank you.